True learning often came from mistakes. It wasn't instant. It wasn't convenient. It was uncomfortable. You tried. You failed. You erased. You tried again. Every error became a stepping stone. Every correction built understanding. The process was slow, but meaningful. No one could skip the struggle. No machine could deliver the lesson for you. This is where patience was learned, where persistence became a habit, where thinking deeply was valued more than answering quickly. The teacher didn't intervene too soon. They allowed you to wrestle with the problem. They trusted that effort, even flawed effort, would lead to growth. In these moments, lessons were absorbed, not memorized. Skills were forged, confidence was built. And decades later, the minds shaped in classrooms like this carry the mark of deliberate, careful thinking. Because real understanding isn't downloaded, it's earned. One trial, one error, one careful correction at a time. Thinking used to have a sound. It wasn't loud, it wasn't fast, but it was constant. You could hear it in the scratching of pencils, in the pause before an answer, in the space between a question and understanding. There were no search engines to rescue you, no instant explanations waiting behind a screen. If you didn't understand something, you stayed with it, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours. And in that struggle, something powerful happened. The brain didn't just receive information, it built pathways, it made connections, it learned how to learn. Patience wasn't taught as a lesson. It was built into the process. You couldn't skip ahead. You couldn't refresh the page. You had to sit inside the problem long enough for it to change you. This kind of silence was not empty. It was full of work no one could see. And inside rooms like this, focus became a skill, attention became strength, and effort became identity. Long before productivity apps and optimization hacks, students discovered something deeper. Understanding takes time, and time is what made it last. Learning was never meant to be a solitary act. It happened in conversation, in shared questions, in moments when one person understood and helped another reach the same place. Knowledge moved from voice to voice, from page to page, from one mind to another. You didn't send information. You explained it. You looked at someone while doing it. You adjusted your words. You waited to see if it made sense. And if it didn't, you tried again. Understanding wasn't measured by speed. It was measured by connection. Teachers weren't guides through software. They were present, walking between desks, listening, responding, adapting. Students didn't just complete assignments. They worked through them together. There was a rhythm to this exchange, a patience that allowed ideas to take shape naturally. No buffering, no loading time. Just people thinking side by side. What these rooms created wasn't only knowledge. They created attention, respect, dialogue, skills that would outlast any machine. Because long before technology connected the world digitally, places like this taught people how to connect as human beings. Before machines became our interfaces, there were people. A teacher wasn't just delivering information. They were translating the world. Every explanation was shaped in real time. Adjusted for confusion, slowed for clarity, repeated with patience. There was no algorithm deciding what you should see next. Only a human being reading the room. If the lesson failed, it changed. If the class struggled, it adapted. If one student didn't understand, the process didn't move on without them. Learning was not standardized. It was personal. Questions were not typed. They were spoken, sometimes nervously, sometimes boldly. And the answers didn't appear instantly. They were built, step by step, together. This was interaction at its most human level. Not efficient, not scalable, but deeply effective. Because education wasn't just about information, it was about trust, attention, presence. The classroom wasn't powered by electricity or bandwidth. It was powered by relationships. The objects left behind tell stories. Every disc, every cassette, every page was a part of how we learned, how we remembered, how we imagined. They were not flashy, they were not instant, but they carried purpose. A CRT monitor glowing softly was a window into discovery. A floppy disk held lessons, homework, ideas, mistakes, and triumphs. A pencil marked paths of thought, erased and rewritten until understanding emerged. These items were tactile, real, physical. And because of that, learning had weight. It demanded attention. It required patience. We didn't swipe. We didn't tap. We held, we turned, we listened, we waited. And every time we returned to these tools, we weren't just learning a lesson. We were practicing focus. We were building memory. We were shaping minds. These objects may now sit quietly, forgotten, but they carry the echoes of every child who used them. Every problem solved, every idea sparked, every thought carefully written. They are the silent witnesses of a time when learning was deliberate, slow, and meaningful. Before the world became constantly connected, it was deeply present. There was a time when information did not follow us. It did not vibrate in our pockets. It did not glow in the darkness beside our beds. It waited, patiently, in places like this. This room did not demand attention. It asked for it. There were no passwords here. No notifications. No updates running in the background. Only the quiet agreement between teacher and student that learning was something you did together. Morning began not with a screen lighting up, but with sunlight crossing a wooden floor. Knowledge did not arrive instantly. It revealed itself slowly. In handwriting, in repetition, in questions that took time to answer. You did not access information. You pursued it. Sometimes that pursuit was frustrating. Sometimes it was slow. But in that slowness, something remarkable happened. Understanding had weight. When you opened a book, you knew where you found something. When you solved a problem, you remembered how long it took. When you made a mistake, you saw it, right there on the page, and learned why it mattered. There was no shortcut past confusion. No search engine to rescue you from thinking. So thinking became stronger. Memory was not outsourced. Attention was not divided. And curiosity was not interrupted every few seconds. This classroom had no Wi-Fi signal, yet conversations traveled farther, ideas lasted longer, and lessons stayed with you, not because they were recorded, but because they were experienced. The world outside was already changing. Technology was coming. Speed was coming. Convenience was coming. But inside rooms like this, something slower and perhaps more powerful than was taking place. Here, patience was being trained. Focus was being built, and minds were learning not just what to know, but how to think. Long before the digital age would reshape everything, before answers became immediate and everywhere, before the phrase online even had meaning, the foundations of that future were being written here. By hand, one line at a time. Finding an answer was never instant. You didn't type a question and receive thousands of results in a fraction of a second. You looked, you read, you compared. And sometimes, you didn't find the answer right away. That wasn't failure. That was the process. Learning meant searching, not online, but within pages, within conversations, within your own understanding. Every book you opened required intention. You had to decide to begin, and once you did, there were no shortcuts waiting to carry you to the end. You moved forward slowly, paragraph by paragraph, idea by idea. Sometimes you misunderstood something, so you went back. Sometimes you solved a problem incorrectly, so you tried again. The work stayed visible. Every erased line, every correction, every improvement. Nothing disappeared with a click. Because of that, knowledge felt earned, not delivered. There was patience in this rhythm, a kind of quiet discipline that shaped how people thought, long before speed became the measure of progress. In rooms like this, understanding wasn't downloaded, it was built. And the time it took to build it was exactly what made it last. Thinking once had a sound. It wasn't loud. It wasn't announced, but it was there. In pauses, in hesitation, in the quiet space between effort and understanding. There was no pressure to respond immediately. No expectation that every answer should arrive instantly. You were allowed to sit with a question, to consider it, to struggle with it, to change your mind. Silence was not seen as absence. It was part of learning. In that silence, ideas formed slowly, connections took shape, understanding deepened without interruption. No alerts, no background noise of constant information, just time and attention. And attention, once given fully, became a powerful tool. Students didn't just receive knowledge, they interacted with it, tested it, worked through it, sometimes for minutes, sometimes longer. The pace may seem unfamiliar now, but in that slower rhythm, the mind learned how to stay, how to focus, how to think without needing to be entertained. These classrooms were not quiet because nothing was happening. They were quiet because something important was taking place.